not even real, just because.
Jesus is definitely not real.
Yeah, that's my opinion of it. I think it's more like a mythos that. Although I read an interesting thing earlier today as to why some secular scholars believe he was real, it would be along the lines of because why would Paul just make up a name and go with it? Right? Like
Well,
so that had some weight only because writing itself back then was kind of rare. Um but
well, that's assuming that Paul's real.
for sure. But my point being is it's still a flimsy bit of evidence to me. Right? Like, oh,
Well,
why would you make up an oh, I don't know. People make up names all the time. They made up the name
well,
Moses.
Jesus was a very popular name during that time. Even when these people were writing these books, and there were a few historical Jesuses, like Jesus ben Ananias. One was like BCE, but it's a very popular name. It's kind of like Adam or Timothy in America. It's just a
I
common name.
By the way, yeah, I just literally just read the given name Yeshua was quite common in first century Galilee. Interesting.
There
Similar.
was
It's actually as common as John would be today within the U.S.
Yep.
Oh, that's
There
interesting.
is an idea of like that there were two or three different historical people named Yeshua who did some disparate things, and then those things were kind of mythologized and then crunched into the idea of Jesus Christ. Um, but there's really only, I mean, either everything aside, either Josephus is right or wrong. Like everybody else, like Tacitus and everybody else, Polycarp, Pliny, Irenaeus, none of these people matter. The only one that matters is Josephus. If Josephus is an interpolation, then there is zero evidence for the existence of Jesus. If
But
it's not, possibly there is.
and I think it was Real who gave me this information actually a couple of months back that Josephus was writing under duress as he was a prisoner of Rome when he was writing. Correct?
Yeah, he was a prisoner at the time that he wrote the um, Antiquities.
Right.
I don't know if the Testimonium was written while he was incarcerated or not. Um, but there's only so Josephus mentions like Jesus like 23 different times in his writings. None of them, they're all individual mentions of different people. Um, but he only mentions Jesus twice within reference to anything that Christians could use, which is chapter 3 in the Testimonium and chapter 18 in the Antiquities.
Doesn't even matter. So, Testimonium Flavium is a passage in Antiquity of the Jews that described Jesus' crucifixion. However, the passage was written after Josephus' death, and
Yeah,
some
that's
scholars
so.
believe it was written by Eusebius.
Yeah, Eusebius in the
So,
fourth.
even
There's
Testimonium wouldn't matter at that point, right?
Yeah, so basically the two mentions of Jesus that people go off of are the mention that the one about being crucified under Pontius Pilate, and then there's the other that mentions James, the brother of Christ. Those are the only two mentions that have anything to do with Christianity. The first one, most people agree, is at least a minor interpolation, the crucifixion, because it's so different from everything else, and it lines up very much with the way Eusebius wrote and what Eusebius does. The other one's a little bit more difficult to deal with, James, the brother of Christ. But Christ there is written as Christos. Christos is a Greek word, not a Hebrew word. It's not an Aramaic word. And everything else is kind of written in a different language. So, and then the earliest version that we have of the mention Christos in there, it appears that the word was Christos, and that they scratched out the E and put it in an I.